Okay, so I see that people are still joining, so I think we can start with a quick house welcoming rules, and then I will pass the floor to my colleagues to do a quick welcome speech. So my name is Justina Bieliauskaitė, I'm Innovations Director at European Digital SME Alliance, and I will be moderating the event today. I will not say much more because I have my colleague Antonio, who is Public Affairs Director here, and he will give a very short welcome and introduction to the topic that we have here today, and then we'll pass floor to also our guest from the European Commission. So Antonio, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Justina, and welcome to everybody also from my side. We are very happy to be here today because today we would like to address with all of you the potential of data-driven innovation by small-size innovators in Europe to support public health objectives, to support especially achieving sustainability of health systems and enable innovation in the healthcare sector. Why we are doing this? Because it has been, at least since the onset of the COVID pandemic, that the health sector has been one of the main ecosystems where data-driven innovation has been blooming, and even where the EU has made significant investments to support research and innovation in the sector. And one clear example of these initiatives coming from the EU is the European Health Data Space that we are going to hear in a minute about. However, even during the COVID pandemic, what we have witnessed is that many countries found themselves with a lack of capacity to collect some basic timely data in healthcare that would have been extremely decisive for decision-making purposes. And these are data about the health workforce, the resources in healthcare, hospitalization, but also data that are about disease prevention and effective treatments to tackle diseases, patient data that have not been enough digitalized for the public authorities to make use of them. So some countries also nowadays lag behind when it comes to the use of real-time data for disease prevention, and also when it comes to creating electronic health records, use real-world data to improve the clinical effectiveness of medicines. So the key to achieving health system sustainable digital transformation is to rely on data-driven innovation. And as countries aim to shift to health systems that are built around people, that are people-centered health systems, data and digital technologies present immense opportunities to achieve progress on this. From electronic health records to mobile health apps, to telemedicine, to health analytics and artificial intelligence, data-driven innovation developed in Europe by small-size innovators can support disease prevention, screening of diseases, early diagnosis, genome sequences, and fight some of the overarching challenges in healthcare. For instance, the one that many, including WHO, call as the next pandemic, that is antimicrobial resistance. Technologies like artificial intelligence used by innovators can help spot and combating superbugs that are behind a huge challenge like antimicrobial resistance. Overall, why this matters? Because digital tools can support the sustainability of health systems. Health systems have scarce resources, and we need true innovation to make them more efficient and sustainable. So that is why we want to talk about data-driven innovation today. We are going to hear from the European Commission in a minute about the several initiatives that they have undertaken in this area. But before that, we want to stimulate today a thought-provoking discussion about health innovation, because we have the strong intention to form a community of small size and medium innovators in Europe that can bring digital solutions to respond to public health objectives and to meet healthcare needs in Europe. Because of that, I'm very happy to give the floor to Fulvia Raffaelli, head of unit in DigiSante on digital health. So please, Ms. Raffaelli, the floor is yours, and very much welcome to our event.
Thank you very much for inviting me, first of all, and also for this nice introduction that you made. Indeed, the future is data-driven, and the data are an indispensable part of today's world. There is no, let's say, more informed and more aware community of the one you are of SMEs, innovators, and startup in digital area. Indeed, data can bring incredible benefits to every aspect of our daily lives, including our health. And the response, as you also mentioned, to the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated this development. Digital health products and services, including telehealth, have become an everyday part of delivery of healthcare. The European Health Data Space takes the lessons learned from the COVID pandemic and puts them into practice. Our proposal for a European Health Data Space is the first of a kind worldwide, and it is about empowering individuals to more easily access and better control their data and decide what and with whom to share personal data. This is also about creating the conditions for an easier and quicker access for researchers, innovators, and policymakers, so that to a large amount of real-world evidence. The European Health Data Space is a potential game changer for healthcare, for individuals, society, and of course, small and medium-sized enterprises. There are many of such enterprises active in the area of digital health. Some of them are developing electronic health record systems, standalone or cloud-based, or modules of HR systems for specific purposes. Some are conducting research, some are offering consultancy services. SMEs are developing telemedicine services and apps for health professionals and for patients. SMEs individually and collectively are, we believe, very important players in the field of digital health. And we believe many of them will be able to benefit from the HDS. Let me highlight a few areas where those benefits could materialize. First of all, the proposed harmonized certification model for EHR systems aims at decreasing barrier for EHR systems manufacturers to place their products on the market in another member state. There will remain, of course, always some specificities in the way member states are organizing their health services. But when it comes to interoperability and security, the HDS proposes a uniform set of requirements for the HR systems. The harmonization of these requirements will likely open the market and reduce costs so that SMEs can better profit of the internal market. It will also make it easier to have systems developed by SMEs to interact with other systems used in the same hospital, regions, or even with national services. Many SMEs are also providing consultancy services in the health domain, helping, for example, HR system manufacturers, digital health authorities, healthcare providers to improve interoperability, security, and in general functionality of their systems. As member states will be tasked with the implementation of a new rights for natural persons in relation to their health data, but also systems for secondary use of health data, there may be more need for consultancy services provided by SMEs. So SMEs with experience in digital health may provide expertise or enable outsourcing of certain tasks. New rights for natural persons in relation to their health data are applicable both in physically provided healthcare services and in services provided online through telemedicine. So again, SMEs that provides telemedicine services or manufacture IT systems for telemedicine will be able to benefit of the HDS, as the availability of health data for patients using telemedicines will increase. The increased interoperability and improved access to health data for healthcare purposes may also provide further possibility for SMEs working in telemedicine market. Also, patients app manufacturers may benefit from some provision of the HDS, such as the possibility for patients to insert relevant data in their HR systems. Last but not least, SMEs working in the research domain will be able to benefit from the improved availability of health data for research purposes. This may be useful for developing new treatment, medicines and products, treatments, and for conducting other research. In general, the HDS will encourage innovation and research in the health area. To summarize, the HDS will benefit all of us: patients, health professionals, healthcare providers, HR system manufacturers, research and innovators. SMEs may find themselves belonging to many of these groups. The role of SMEs in making the HDS a reality is very important. We are currently busy with finalizing the legislative process that will hopefully lead to the adoption of the regulation in 2024. But we want already to thank you for your support, your proactiveness in these areas, and your ideas. We also want to invite you to start preparing for the entry into force and implementation, as we believe the HDS will bring benefits back to you. Thank you for the attention, and back to you, please. I believe you are muted.
Yes, thank you indeed very much, Ms. Raffaelli, for this comprehensive explanation of the initiatives of the European Commission, and in particular of the very relevant one of the European Health Data Space. If we are looking also at the audience in case there are questions, if that is not the case, I would like to actually immediately propose a first question about the implementation of the health data space. That is, when it comes to really getting on board the data holders, the ones who provide data into the system, including potentially the innovators from the private sector. Are you thinking to establish any forum or any platform that could trigger the dialogue with such actors in order to enhance the implementation? And then on top of that, when it comes to the more strategy to digitalize the healthcare sectors, a crucial policy action that is needed is having the professions that are on a day-by-day on the front line of the healthcare systems engaged on digitalizing and on using the opportunities from digitalization in healthcare. So maybe in a nutshell, how do you think we can make sure that this health workforce is equipped with the skills that are needed to use the digital technologies in healthcare? And how do we make sure that they can have a dialogue with small and medium-sized innovators? Because together with healthcare professionals, these innovators are the ones that can also use and provide proximity of healthcare services to the population that has been a crucial challenge during the COVID pandemic.
Thank you very much for the question. Indeed, the practitioners, the ones that you are, I mean, the closest to the to actual use of the digital instruments and tools, let's say, are the best place to provide us with a good advice on how to go for the implementation. You are let's say the forum that we have set up for representing and hearing from different stakeholders is the stakeholder health network group that took place last week. This is the sort of official forum where you are Digital Europe, but also the SMEs are represented. So this is the official forum where we would invite all different contributors to actually send inputs and continue get engaged. But there are also a number of other initiatives ongoing from the different joint actions that are preparing the practical implementation. These are mostly addressed to member states, but actually they also go broader than member states themselves, in particular the ones that we are developing for in relation with the definition of the templates and standards and formatting European expand, for instance, the ones which are related to the definition of the future, let's say, European exchange format for the data. These are all informations are available on our website and are regularly circulated. I can also come back to you with more precise information, but this is where we need actually to have your expertise. In relation with the healthcare professions, we also starting a new contract for a new rounds, let's say, of for the project on capacity buildings. So again, addressing in first place member states, but also member states as multipliers, let's say, as catalyzers for efforts that needs to be developed also across the different sectors and the different networks. As you certainly know, aware, this is mainly a responsibility at member states level, but we are actually looking forward to the possibility of developing horizontal instruments that could support the member states in their work with the national actors. So this is the second round of capacity buildings will start before the end of the year. And from that exercise, we really expect practical deliverables such as guidelines and training modules that then could be used afterwards by the member states to go and actually spread the good news and the novelties, let's say, that would need to be. We're also working with a network of universities so that we can also they could also start looking at the curricula, actually, of the future doctors and the future healthcare professionals, so to be sure that digital skills are also included, let's say, somehow into the curricula, without, of course, putting into question the core of the training for future doctors that, of course, must remain around the patient, the treatment, and the diagnosis, etc. So
Thank you so much. Thank you so much also for this very detailed answer. We also look forward to remain engaged with you and with the Commission in order to bring our contribution to public health objectives. Then I give back the floor to my colleague Justina Bello-Schreiter to guide us through the next discussion for today.
Thank you very much, Fulvia, and thank you as well, Antonio. So it's my pleasure today to start talking about specific initiatives and mainly digital innovation hubs, European and non-European as well, and the role in supporting SMEs to contribute to healthcare innovation, as well as European health data space. So for that, we have three speakers who will help to tackle the topic a little bit. We have Bert Verdon, who is Chief Executive Officer at Luxembourg National Data Service, and also with quite extensive experience both in healthcare sector innovation and also in private sector, working with Gaia-X, with the health data space. So Bert, hello, nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Then we also have Paula Comanescu, who is a SME expert at Cluj IT Cluster and European Digital Innovation Hub for Society. Hi, Paula.
Hello, nice to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Likewise. And finally, Mario Jandrosek, European Projects Lead at Health Data Hub. Hi, Mario.
Yes, hi everyone.
Very nice to have you all. So perhaps we can start with Bert. Bert, since you have a really extensive experience from different points of view, even working with Gaia-X and new health data space, I was wondering, can you share a little bit of experience and background? What have you done? What are you currently doing? And how to your mind creation of these type of infrastructures and initiatives can contribute to health innovation in Europe?
Yeah, thank you. My entire career has actually taken place in the health informatics space. With a PhD in medical image processing, I started working long ago at Philips, where I stayed for 26 years. And for Philips, I always was in the informatics arena. And there I've seen a lot of solutions and health architectures that have worked and that have failed. And it's always important to also learn from the failures, from the applications that do not scale. And that's how I got interested a number of years ago in the European data strategy, the data space strategy of the Commission, which they started to work on in multiple sectors, also the building horizontal capabilities, as well as zooming in on the health vertical now with the European health data space. And that's how I got involved with initiatives like Gaia-X, which is a not-for-profit association working on the standardization, which is still lacking. And actually in the health domain, there's too much standards, but there's still, believe it or not, some things that are missing in order to create trust in data sharing infrastructures. And that's where now I was very active in the Gaia-X Association, and I'm also a board member there. And my current job is actually for the Luxembourg government, where I'm running a small to medium organization. So in that sense, I think I have a lot of sympathy for the participants in this call, trying to create an enabling data service for public sector data at large for the Luxembourg government.
Thank you, Bert. Can you also a little bit elaborate on how do you think these initiatives are important for Europe and what do they do for innovation, especially perhaps for SME-driven innovation?
Yes. I've had the chance to work with a lot of smaller organizations in this health data domain before, and you see that today it costs a lot of effort for these organizations to build up a technology stack from scratch almost often in order to create all the security layers, the user identification and authentication. They run into interoperability issues, so it is actually very hard to build out an information system for a special application. And a lot of these SMEs want to focus on a clinical breakthrough or on a specific disease type or on a smart device that I want to bring into practice. But this whole information landscape makes it very hard for them. And if they then succeed in one country, in one region, then it's again very hard to move that solution for application in another country. So I think that's where these new initiatives try to break through some of these issues, is in harmonizing the way we engineer, we architect these solutions, making them such that they are more interoperable, such that people in small organizations can leverage the investment that other people have done, that they can integrate more easily in a hospital information system landscape, and then in a way that is not so locally and specific, but in a way that they can also leverage when moving their application into another country. And that's, I think, what these associations are trying to do to improve the standardization, the base set of components, and where we also need the Commission and national legislators to make that landscape easier to innovate and also to validate and to deploy these applications.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Bert. We will also speak with SMEs later on, so we will see what are the challenges for them from their perspective. But I definitely agree. In our association, we represent more than 45,000 different SMEs in other sectors, not only healthcare, but I think these are the challenges that indeed they face. And I hope we all already heard a few ideas for the ways ahead, so we can discuss also later in the panel. Thank you very much, Bert. Now I would like, I don't know who would like to start, Mario or perhaps Paula, whoever would like to be first, because the question is more or less same. Can you tell us a little bit about what your hub is doing in the field? How do you support SMEs to provide healthcare innovation? What are the initiatives in this regard in your organizations? I see Paula here, so perhaps you can start, Paula.
Yes, thank you, Justina. I also have a very short presentation to share with you. So if you would allow
Please share
me
your
1
screen.
second to share my screen, and please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen. Perfect. Thank you, Paula.
Okay, so Cluj IT Cluster, we are a member of the European Digital SME Alliance, so we are really connected, and we know the challenges that we are facing, both in relationship with you as a network. We see lots of advantages, but also in relation to our members. So we have almost 100 members here in Romania, mostly IT companies, universities, research institutes, and together with our ecosystem, we have identified this need to create a very a more easier connection with the potential beneficiaries of digital solutions in general. So one initiative we have put in place is the Digital Innovation Hub for Society, an initiative that we founded in 2015, but we have kept working on it, and last year we have been recognized by the European Commission as part of the European Digital Innovation Hubs network. So what we want to do is to really find the practical connections between digital solution providers, digital innovation adopters, the wider ecosystem, the business community, the public sector, so that we ensure a more efficient digital transformation in general. We want to be the one-stop shop that really reduces or cancels the risks that we currently see in the market. So either the solution and the beneficiary do not meet, or if they meet in the wrong moment. They don't understand each other. So here we step in, and we want to ensure this soft landing for the initial digital transformation pathways, and we want to run them on the same strip on like a control gate at operational level, very practical. We have built 4 main pillars for our services. One is the digital journey, where we do digital maturity assessments. We ensure access to testing facilities. We consult the beneficiaries with pathways and strategies for their digital transformation. Of course, we also offer skills and trainings in integrated approaches, trying to be as close as possible to the needs of the beneficiary. Investment Accelerator is an important service because many of the beneficiaries find this challenge of identifying the right funding options for their journey. And last but not least, the innovation ecosystem services related to networking, matchmaking, business to business, transfer of best practices, and general market ecosystem building. We have chosen 3 main technical specialties: intelligent robotics, cybersecurity, and digital transformation. And because we want to have a significant impact, we are targeting industrial manufacturing, public administration, and health. you can see under the health sector what we are thinking in supporting the organizations in health sector. So with medical robotics, assistive robotics, robot process automation, secure healthcare and medical services in relation to cybersecurity, and wider digital transformation services related to precision medicine, telemedicine, deep immersive healthcare systems, and other processes. These are some of examples of our consulting services targeting the health sector. So you can see the three main categories: cybersecurity, digital transformation, and smart robotics. I want to say that here we are really developing a framework where we can offer very specialized service related to each beneficiary and their practical needs, trying to get as big impact as possible for them and added value. Training services are essential because we need the digital transformation to be sustainable and resilient. So we want them to start understanding what they are doing and to start being able to support their new systems and processes. So that's why we offer an integrated approach with a part of training. This is just a quick view of our ecosystem. So around the main partnership formed by Technical University of Cluj-Napoca, University of Oradea, and Industry and Commerce Chamber from Bistrița Năsăud, we have developed the wider and very close ecosystem of companies and organizations that are supporting us with their resources and competencies to support this transformation applied in this case in the health sector. Being connected is essential, especially for us in Romania. We are at the edge of Europe, and now we see all sorts of risks and dangers coming closer to us. So for us, being connected to Western Europe, it is essential. We have initiated network. So we were at the of the creation table of this, for example, the Southeast Smart Health Edit Network, where we work together with other similar digital innovation hubs from countries in Southern and Eastern Europe. We are part of the DIH Health Network at European level, and we also created other corridors in relationship to public administration and the logistic corridor, trying to connect better the north to the south of Europe. We are, as I said, part of European organizations. You can see them here, which really give us the advantage of being more connected and closer to the opportunities that are appearing on the market. I want to give you a very practical example on how we support SMEs who are active in eHealth. This is a Eurocluster project, one of the three implemented by Cluj IT Cluster, where in a European partnership, we are bringing closer to SMEs who are active in the digital health sector opportunities going from access to funding through cascade funding schemes to services specialized for the sector and connection to a wider European ecosystem. And I think this is my last slide. But I want to say that I was very happy to hear important words. We are looking for them like harmonization and interoperability and standardization, because we see that our SMEs are struggling a lot with the diversity and the wide range and complexity of the regulations, especially related to the health sector. So we are representing the IT sector, but our members are very interested in applications towards health, and they struggle with understanding what regulations they need to apply, and then going from a country to another, they see significant differences. So this was my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. And I see that Bert is also asking colleagues here wherever problems are more technical or perhaps legal, organizational, governance problems. So for what I hear from you, it's more about legislation, right?
Legislation related to anything that is connected to health. So regulations in approving solutions to enter the market.
Okay.
So
yeah.
This comes on top of everything Bert has listed as challenges for the innovators, because yes, it is complicated to innovate, to bring a product or an application from scratch, bring it to the market. But in order to do that, you also need to really understand the complexity of the regulations applicable for the market that you are targeting.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Paula. I will ask also Mario perhaps to elaborate a bit on the same question. So tell us a little about what you are doing in Health Data Hub. What are your initiatives, and perhaps how can SMEs benefit from them?
Yeah, thanks a lot. I hope you can hear me all right. And
yeah, if you speak to microphone, we hear you perfect.
Noise.
No worries.
Okay, great. Perfect. So I hope you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So yeah, I want to speak to you quickly and go through it quite rapidly, so don't hesitate if you have questions afterwards. The Health Data Hub is a French public authority tasked with making health data available for secondary use for projects that are deemed in the public interest. So in order to achieve that, we have three main roles or activities. One is to be the single way for health data in France. Everyone, be it a private or public actor who wants to access health data, passes somehow through the Health Data Hub in order to request access to the data or to get access to the data. Then we provide a secure state-of-the-art technological platform where data users can access the data in a secure way and with all the analytical tools they need to carry out their projects. And I get back to that in a second. And last but not least, we develop progressively a data set catalog together with our partners, where we try to provide all the time better and more sophisticated and additional data sets to our data users. And so just to give an example of one project which is benefiting from the support from the Health Data Hub, both like in human resources and financially, and with like support throughout the regulatory process. That is actually a project with a startup SME called Implicity. So that project aims to predict heart failure crisis leading to hospitalizations for patients who have pacemakers, connected pacemakers. And so the idea of the project is to use data from those connected pacemakers together with data from one of the databases we hold from the SNDS on hospital admissions in order to create a linked database and then to develop an AI prediction algorithm that will tomorrow be able to predict from the data from the pacemakers when a patient should go for a checkup in order to avoid heart failures. So based on those data, actually the project has already developed that algorithm and has submitted a request for authorization to the FDA. So that is just one example, but of course we have multiple projects involving startups or SMEs. So our main I think our main use case for SMEs is get access to the data you need and support with the regulatory process along the way. And also, of course, on the technological tools that you need in order to analyze data. So if I go a bit beyond support for one single project, so actually we have a general task to support innovative projects. So we organize multiple national and international calls for projects, and for instance, on oncology, environmental health, AI in health, and many more. We also organize data challenges in the same area where often we have SMEs or startups contribute. And we also work on more national strategic aspects that will at some point filter down to aspects or activities of interest to SMEs. For instance, we're conducting the NLP working group for the French government to see how we can tackle that at the French level. And we facilitate the working groups of the Strategic Committee on Health Data, which is with the ministerial working group looking at our national health data assets and how we can make sure we finance them correctly and make sure we provide access to them. And because I think one of the subjects of today is also the European health data space and how it can contribute. And I think we had a nice keynote introduction from Fulvia. It's just to say the Health Data Hub as a French organization is very much invested in contributing to building that European health data space, because we believe it will create a common framework and we need in terms of governance that will allow health data to be reused in the same fashion throughout Europe. And so in many countries, and including in France, there's many barriers. And so the legislation could overcome many of those. And so we contribute to 3 initiatives on this topic. One, which was the TEDAS Joint Action, which actually closes down this month. So which was a discussion forum to frame the European health data space and provide recommendations. And second, now we are working, and the Health Data Hub is coordinating that project, the Health Data at EU pilot project, where we create and test the first version of the European health data space network for secondary use. So actually it is one aspect foreseen in the EHDS regulation, the cross-border infrastructure for secondary use called Health Data at EU. So if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to elaborate, of course. And last but not least, we also applied for the direct grants to speed up the implementation of health data access bodies at the national level. Of course, thinking that we will be one of those health data access bodies. And so there we would work more on the national level to build up the infrastructure and services that are needed to really fulfill the role of the health data access body. Then, of course, beyond the HDS, we also engage in European projects, and for instance, in the Eden project or in the testing and experimentation facility health. And that very last project, I think, is worth mentioning because it is actually meant to support SMEs in accessing services they need to get to an approval of their solutions, especially in terms of algorithms or in terms of robotics and the health area. So that's maybe also a project to look at. So I will stop here. But if you have any questions, I have some backup slides, and I'm happy to elaborate during the discussion. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mario. It's very, very interesting and also very, very clear presentation, very well focused. So for me, it was indeed very interesting to hear and understand your approach. Perhaps same question as it was to Paula. Where do you think that SMEs, companies you work with, you even presented the concrete example, what are the fields at the moment where we need most of help to your mind? In your mind, is it more technical? Because I think you work a lot on technical aspects. Is it also regulatory, more governance aspects?
I think the main challenge, would, at least so far, of course, as far as I understand, but probably it's more up to the SMEs to tell us, is to get the access to the data. Most often the startups or SMEs will be able to get the technology right, because often they're experts in it, or they can get experts from outside to contribute. But to get access to the data can take a very long time and can be very burdensome. And so it might be easier from time to time to turn to some US data assets where access might be easier, quite expensive, but easier. And so I think the challenge is really to open up the data under strict security conditions, but still to open up and speed up the access there. And that is what we are mostly focused on, because we're convinced access to the health data is needed to speed up innovation in the healthcare sector.
Thank you, Mario, very much. Bert, I would like to get back to you. So I hope colleagues already gave you some ideas on what are the main challenges. How do you see them from your perspective? In your work, what are the challenges and what could be the main ways ahead, perhaps? Maybe there are some requests from what you see since we had commission, and we will definitely share the summary of the event. So maybe also some recommendations, and I will later also ask the other colleagues about this.
Yeah. For sure, I mean, what you see and what you hear is that the current landscape is far too complicated, and it takes too long to get access to data, to get data of sufficient volume and size and sufficient variability. So that's absolutely a common problem. So how to attack it is, first, I think that still a lot can be done on the national level. Because in the end, most organizations start prototyping around a single hospital or a couple of health providers in a certain region. So if the national legislation as well as funding programs already stimulate this innovation in a local ecosystem, that is already good. And you see that there's a lot of opportunity already in a local ecosystem. We tend to call them data spaces. So where a number of participants agree on their local rules in order to exchange certain data and under some conditions. So I think not everything needs to come top down. A lot can already be achieved bottoms up in these regional initiatives. So I would constantly stimulate and not stop or slow down any of those local initiatives. Of course, it would be better that if there is are common components built within these regional initiatives, that they could be shared amongst, and that people learn from these initiatives. That's what we try to do, for example, with the Gaia X Health Working Group. We constantly do matchmaking and knowledge sharing, such that if people achieve some progress in a local initiative, that we share that in a European platform, and that we look for collaborations between these regional initiatives. There are examples already between France and Germany, with the Netherlands and Luxembourg, and Italy, and some examples. So we try to connect local initiatives in order to do knowledge sharing, and sometimes it even results in concrete technical components being exchanged between these initiatives. So all of that is, I think, good preparatory work also when in a couple of years the European Health Data Space Regulation will be in full traction, that we can federate and connect these local initiatives to the broader scheme, because I don't believe that there will ever be one health data space. That is a far too centralistic concept. We will not get one. There will always be multiple, but there are technical solutions in order to federate or to connect multiple of these more regional or disease specific sometimes, or maybe data type specific initiatives. And that is, in a very complicated healthcare landscape, I think the way to proceed is to connect and federate amongst regional or disease-specific initiatives, such that people can then aggregate on a larger scale, combine patient cohorts cross-border, because there is a lot to be gained, especially in Europe. We have a lot of smaller countries, and in such a country, an innovator may not find enough patient cases of a specific kind, and then you need to be able to combine data sets cross-border. That's very much where the European Health Data Space, the secondary use aspects come in. How can I file a request for a certain data type, a data set, in a consistent way across multiple member states, so that we can aggregate? Because that's exactly the reason why people now have to go to the United States or to China, because there you have, under one regulation, a much larger population. In Europe, we have a potential of 400 million citizens. So we must become able to run cohort studies across our borders in that 400 million population, because that's where we can find the numbers we need. For example, for rare diseases, we really need to be able to combine data across all of these countries. So that's a bit of my indication. Never stop to start with a local collaboration, set up a governance, make agreements between local stakeholders, but then try to copy the architecture, the building blocks from other similar initiatives, start to share point to point with other regional initiatives. And then when the national and international European level frameworks come into place, connect your initiatives to those. And that's how I hope and I believe we can achieve scale in Europe.
Perfect, Bert. Thank you. It's also very, very clear recommendations. So it's very interesting since we are also planning some future work on the topic with SMEs, and not only SMEs, but public authorities and also European authorities. So I think these are type of recommendations that will be very, very interesting and will definitely feed into our work. So thank you very much for these ideas. And perhaps to conclude the panel, also same question to Mario and Paula. From your daily work with companies, how do you see it? What is still needed? What is missing? And perhaps what could be done from European level to help initiatives as yours? Because you both even though perfectly connected to European level, but you do work on regional, national levels with companies there. So what else can be done to support and scale the services that you are providing? Paula, I see you are here, so please feel free to start.
Yes. Well, actually, I would agree with Bert that we really need to start seeing initiatives being let's say, integrated at local and regional level, because looking around us, we see lots of examples of universities, research institutes who have really started to put to build their data spaces or their own methodologies and gathering data. We see interests from companies, but we really need to connect them better. So this is something we are really paying a lot of attention, how we can practically create the connection between SMEs and universities interested in the same pathway. And in relationship to a better connection to the European opportunities, this is let's say everyday job to start to continue awareness actions, continue to inform companies about the opportunities that exist, and also create practical I don't know, events or other types of pitching sessions where they can learn from others, or they can present their ideas in order to gather energy and to make them more efficient and more integrated. So yes, we need to keep doing what we are doing and to keep the connection with our partners from other countries who have maybe gathered more experience behind them, so that we can learn faster and teach our companies how they can use better the knowledge and the opportunities. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Paula. And Mario, your last words and some recommendations or ideas. How can we move ahead in Europe?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I think what is important is to, on many aspects, to get started. So we to do some concrete projects, see what is working, what is not working. Also, once the legislation is in place, especially to see, yeah, how to proceed. I think there's some very concrete services that are foreseen at the European level, for instance, around data discovery, around the procedure to get access to data, and the technological resources to get access. And so I think in order to show SMEs that there's really something building up, that will enable them to use all those resources and services, we need to engage them so that there are some early adopters, early users who can provide feedback, and then we can continuously improve on those services. But I think from time to time, the research and innovation worlds can be a bit disconnected from the world of public health policy, where we are building those services. So we need to continuously connect those and have some iterative feedback loop both ways, so to learn. Thanks.
Thank you, Mario, very much, and thank you for all the speakers who contributed to our panel. we are taking note of all the recommendations and ideas you gave here today, and we hope we can further discuss it with our community in the next months and years to come. Meanwhile, in Digital SME, we are also involved into eHealth for Data, which is also a project in framework of which we are organizing this roadshow, and one of the reasons why we are here today. And in this project, we basically provide data-driven services to SMEs. It's a network of digital innovation hubs within the project that supports provision of these services. And besides all the services that you can find on the website that my colleagues will post, so there are trainings and there are also other potential support services to companies. We are also organizing an event that will take place in Valencia in October. So we are very much encouraging those SMEs who are curious to learn more about iSpaces on data and linked to healthcare as well as some business opportunities in data-driven economy overall, but also specifically on some opportunities related to healthcare sector. We invite companies to come there. We will have some use cases presentations. We will have sectoral track on healthcare with some interesting insights from leaders and experts in the field. So we definitely encourage you to check the event. With more details on the program will be available very soon, and come and visit us there. With this note, I think we can perhaps continue with the next panel, where we will have more practical examples. So we will have SMEs, we will have research sector as well, presenting some of the very, very practical examples of what can be done in eHealth, and hopefully inspire those of you here today to further see of why is it important and what kind of really, really interesting things we can do if we use data to innovate in healthcare. So we have with us today Zilda Mendes, who is coordinator of statistical team and also deputy director at the Center for Health Evaluation and Research in Portugal. Also leader of HICOR project, which she will be talking about. Hello, Zilda.
Hello.
Hi, Zilda, nice to see you here. And we have also Flemming Sven, who is project manager at Norwegian company Hafenstrom, and also managing director at Halify. And your company is also partner in a rural project where you're also providing some use case from healthcare sector. So hi, Flemming, nice to have you here as well.
Yes, indeed, dear. Very good summary. Thank you, Justina.
So Zilda, perhaps we can start with you. I know you have also a presentation to tell us a bit more about the initiative that you have worked on and what are the impacts of your initiative. A little bit of inspiration of, what can companies and researchers do to actually improve the healthcare sector and perhaps also the society. So please, Zilda, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Justina. Is it okay with the screen sharing?
Yes, we see very well. Yes.
Okay. So as Justina told you about, I work in the research center for the National Association of Pharmacies in Portugal, and we have data that we usually analyze for several purposes, and this is the example of the HiCore model that we designed. So this model, let's see if I can. Okay. So it is well published in several literature that data from transactional databases of pharmacies can do can make some models and to detect mainly and anticipate detection of respiratory disease or outbreaks in several groups of medicines. So inspired with some articles that we read, we decided to start with the respiratory disease and try to do something with the sales of OTCs for respiratory disease. In Portugal, We have an association of pharmacies that have about 85% of all pharmacies in Portugal, and we receive and we have a central databases with all transactions without the ID of the patient, so it's anonymized, and we only have the transaction and the sales done by the pharmacies, and we have this database for about 25 years, 20 to 25 years. We use this database to several projects, but we started in 2018 to study the peaks and the intensity of influenza outbreaks. So this model that we created enables the public authorities to anticipate the burden of visits to healthcare centers and hospitals, and these data, as we have 85% of all pharmacies in Portugal, can be analyzed at the municipality level. So we start to do with some data mining techniques. We start to select a basket of OTCs that could predict influenza outbreaks, and we correlated our data with the data from the physicians. So we started to implement a moving epidemic method, an epidemiological model. First, we correlate with data already existent from the primary care to see if the model was good, and then we start modeling our own model. So this graph here shows that when we started in 2018, we started to correlate our curve, which is the dark green one, with the curve of influenza illness cases in primary care. And we can see that the curves are very similar and highly correlated. What's the big difference here? It's that our curve is ahead 2 weeks of the primary care one. So with our data, we can anticipate 2 weeks the burden of the visits at the hospitals and primary care centers. So the curve is too similar, but 2 weeks ahead. So this is a very important issue that we found, and it's a very practical example that pharmacy sales can anticipate the burden of hospitals and primary care centers because of the flu. So, and as I told you, we can do that at the municipality level. Every day we run the model, and we see that the sales of OTC products for influenza are not equal everywhere. So this season, when we tested, it started in December in the north, then it came to the Coimbra region, then to Lisbon, and a slightly sign in the south of Portugal. So this model, which is a very practical example, it's a contribution from the pharmacy networks to the influenza surveillance, and we have this model every day from October to March available at the National Association of Public Health Physicians, so they can see the model running every day and have their conclusions and plan the time schedule for the physicians at the primary care. So just for curiosity, for this season 2002-2003, we had a low season. So in Portugal continental, on the right hand side, the threshold did not go up to the moderate level. But in Azores and Madeira, which is the other two curves at our left side, it was a peak. They had a peak before the continent, and it was very high, and it was very high at the end of the year in December, and it's above the moderate sign, which is the orange line. So we do that for continental Portugal, for Azores and Madeira, and in Portugal we also have the curves for the five the 5 main zones of Portugal. We have North, Center, Lisbon, Alentejo, and Algarve, and we can see that the curves are different for the regions. And if we start to run the model at the municipality level, we can see when it started, and this year it started also in the north. It seems like a pattern. So the red zone started in the north, but it was a very light season. It was not. It didn't achieve the red one, and it went green at the end of December and January. So we have this model public in the for our national authorities, so that they can do what they want with this information and can anticipate the burden of visits to the hospitals and primary care in Portugal.
Thank you very much, Zilda. I'm wondering if you could also briefly tell us, maybe in one sentence, what are the main lessons and inspirations that companies could learn from your model, because that's a very, very nice approach and also very helpful for both public and especially for national decision makers and public health providers. So from this very good experience, perfect model, what could be your advice, your inspiration?
Yes, I think that sometimes we think that we have our data don't have quality, or we have difficulties to get the data. In our project, it was easier because we already have the data. When I started working in CEFAR 20 years ago, we didn't have any data. So we built this database from the beginning. First, we have only 80 pharmacies sending data, and now we have 100 pharmacies sending us the data. But although we don't have the patient ID, we only have sales. I think that with sales data, we can do a lot of things. We are now doing some similar things for allergies and other pathologies, gastrointestinal OTCs, to predict and to find peaks of other diseases. And I think that we have, although we don't have the patient ID and the patient journey, that everyone talk about, only with sale data we can do a lot of things.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Zilda. It was definitely very interesting. And I think what we have just heard is very similar to what we discussed in the first panel, that access to data is indeed very important. And what you showed to us, that there can also be some creative ways to maybe also overcome burdens of receiving more personal data from patients directly. Like, there are ways to look around it. So it's definitely very innovative. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
And Flemming, I would like to ask you for a presentation of your case and what your company is doing in Norway.
Sure, I will do that. I can start by sharing my screen here. And since I noticed that we are starting to running somewhat out of time, I will try to keep myself within the time slot here.
Don't worry, we can have a couple more minutes.
Okay, sounds good here. I think I will start with a very brief introductory presentation. I think that's a good place to start here. And I have named this not challenges and opportunities, but obstacles and opportunities. Just for starters here, my name is Flemming Sveen, and I'm involved here in piloting within the health sector. So my expertise actually within the mobility and security sector, but many of these actually fits very well in with the health services that is to be provided here to smart communities. So to put things in a bit of a context here, so I represent a company that is called Hafenstrom. And this is an SME located in Norway, actually north of the Arctic Circle. So you can say that we are a typical project-oriented company that focus on research and innovation activities. So this fits in with what we are talking about here. Now, we have been a very active project partner and work package leader and task leader within numerous Horizon 2020 projects. Now, we have also several proposals in the pipeline here, and we have authored white papers and advised rural regions on aspects related to health service and smart things here. So you can see that we have been very actively involved in developing business model related to home care, and we have also been active members of organizations like IoT and ISO, among other things here. So I think that we have a pretty solid foundation for some of the issues we are talking about here. So what I will mainly talk about here is the Rural project. Rural is described more or less as a data broker, but I think that you can think of it as a framework for offering services. So I'm the pilot leader of services for search and rescue. I will get back to this in a moment here. But first, this pilot did originally start as a concept really here of delivering medical prescriptions to isolated islands and also regions that have been blocked due to things like high tide, rock slides, mudslides, you name it here. Now, there are several reasons that this idea was considered interesting. Sustainability, that's a big issue. And we have a pretty scattered population in the north. And not only that really here, but there are also many fishing villages that experience an aging population. So not only are they not as mobile, but the communities themselves may be a complete cutoff from the mainland. There were some issues though, and this is some of the things that we are talking about here. The digital ecosystem here, that means, for instance, ordering, preparing, sending, all of these activities take place in separate spaces. Integration is difficult here, they are expensive, and they can be very, very time consuming. So that concept that had to be cancelled here. So the next thing we did here was moved on here to look at how biological materials such as blood and tissue samples could be transported to save time and money. Actually, in particular saving time, as very few people can wait many days on, for instance, bacterial tests to be conducted and cancer cells to be identified. This is tied in with what we just heard being mentioned here. But of course here, also here we did run into somewhat similar issues. Lots of regulations, lack of standards, although on a somewhat different level really here, because the information is available. It's just too time consuming to get started here and to receive the necessary permissions here. However, as you can see here, so when one door closes here, we have other opportunities that arise here. And one of those is pretty interesting. It's climate change. So what happens now is that we have downpour, we have flooding, we have drought, we have forest fires, we have temperature fluctuations here, you name it here. And things like hits us here in Norway here, things like mudslide. We have snow melting, avalanches. And of course here, as we also have experienced downwards in Europe, we have heat waves, we have landslides. So taking all this into perspective here, either you're convinced that these changes are man-made or part of a natural cycle, something is happening. And it's happening faster than expected here. And it represents also a European challenge. But this also established a groundwork for some of the new kinds of services and increased demand here for supporting, for instance, during crisis situations and various incidents here. So you can say that similar situations here, they occur all over Europe, actually all over the world here. So we see that we have a very large potential market here. So providing, for instance, people that lost at sea, lost at mountains, etc. here, not having access to the basic necessity and relevant medical attention is something that is something we need to plan for. And all of a sudden, the concept here of a European data space for eHealth, that starts to be a matter even more than ever before. So I believe here that the timing is very right here. Now, you had some questions for me here. Justina?
Thank you very much Fleming, thank you so much. It's very, very interesting and indeed very practical. So I think easily to understand from consumer side as well. So I'm wondering, doing all of this, what were the main challenges you faced and perhaps the lessons learned? What was important? And what could you advise to other companies stepping into the health area?
Well, if you look at some of the challenges that we was talking about here, I think it's really a number of them, Justina, here. From my perspective here, closed-off ecosystems, that makes developing horizontal services and follow those demands. It's very difficult here. And I would say that innovation here, it depends both on what kinds of personal qualities you have, but also what kinds of competing business strategies that is out there. So, for instance, from a market perspective, I think it's better to not fall in love with your own ideas really here, but have confidence in them, nurture them, and if you have the resources here. So when you are talking about, for instance, here, opportunities, I think there are a lot of them really here. For starters here, I would like to comment here on the standardization and interoperability that was mentioned here. Providing compatibility, those also opens here really for seamless sharing across systems and services. That also means that we have this potential here for accessing much larger markets. So this is something that I consider very important for all SMEs, but perhaps in particular for a company like Afrastom, which is located to the far north here. So you can say that, again, here from my perspective here, the European data space, it brings forth another topic here when we're talking about consolidating data here and to sharing services here. There is not really any reason here to reinvent the wheel here. So when we have secure management here, and we have this access to this entire data ecosystems here, that opens the door for integrating content, which we'd also here with open data from other parts of the world here. And this also includes, for instance, from devices that you have near on you, for instance, as a temperature, a heartbeat, and blood sugar level, all those kinds of things here. This is being opened here by introducing the data space here. I think that in addition to this, we can use this in order to generate knowledge graphs and provide various levels of, for instance, what I call digital foresight here. So think about this, for instance, here, we have a number of smart devices. We have pill dispensers, we have proximity sensors here, we have IR cameras, we have points of incidents and positions of different kinds of assistance. We even have things in smart communities where we, for instance, have available spaces to park. All of this can be tied in as services related to the data space here. I can go into detail, but we are running short of time here.
Indeed.
Yeah, but I have even more innovative ideas based upon this that we have been looking into here. So give me a sign if you want to have some of them as well here.
If you can just summarize in one last minute, if all the ideas you have.
Okay, I can give some innovative ideas based upon data space here. Okay, we'll be very quick here. For instance, imagine health information that is distributed and used as part of, for instance, an AI-supported strategy based on their personal health records, for instance, here. This can be used to, for instance, prepare information that follows that person here across borders, but that may also have an impact here when, for instance, preparing for search and rescue activities. And that can also, I think, here be used for instance, for plan ahead, for likely scenarios and offer a new kind of functionality. For instance, like search and alert if people are moving into areas where that perhaps is not suitable for them here. And I think also that when you are attending, you have tours that is part of an exercise. For instance, we can plan ahead for potential, both when it comes to planning for medical attention here, for nutrients, every kind of things here, as long as we turn collecting information into a collective effort. I think that opens for a lot of opportunities here. So these are just some of the many, I think, new services, new innovations that you can build on top of those.
Thank you, Fleming. Thank you very much. These are really, really good ideas and quite some space for thought. Thank you also for your example, which is very inspiring. I'm very happy to hear all of this. And looking at your story and also the one of Zilda's, I see how much we actually can do and how much we still have unexplored spaces because perhaps companies are still unable because of challenges or unable because of lack of awareness or many other challenges we face. So I think this is still a gap that indeed we need to bridge with initiatives such as the ones we spoke in the first panel, but perhaps also more things that can be done. And today we are running this event with also the second project, that is Shift Hub. And here we have Paul Stefanut, a co-founder and president of Booster Labs and a partner in Shift Hub project, who can tell us a little bit more about new services that Shift Hub will actually offer to SMEs to encourage and boost innovation so that we have more solutions such as Zilda's and Fleming's solutions in Europe. And also in the chat, I see that Peter, I believe, suggested that what SMEs need is actually a co-creative approach and with common work together to identify different needs of end users. So this is also something what is part of Shift Hub's approach. So Paul, thank you. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Justina. Pleased to see you all. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we see it very well.
Okay, perfect. So along with the Digital SME Alliance and 11 other partners, we are involved in Shift Hub. Shift Hub stands for Smart Health Innovation and Future Technologies Hub. It is a EU-funded project under Horizon Europe, a coordination and support action that will last for 3 years. It started in January this year, and we will run until December 2025. One of the key strengths of the consortium resides basically in the complementarity of the consortium. First of all, our coordinator, Steinbeis Europa Centrum. Then we have knowledge providers, universities, and university hospitals, Cologne, Thessaloniki, and Porto. Then innovation intermediaries who are specialized in support, financial, acceleration services, technology providers, Clarop, a scale-up that develops data hubs specialized in particular in the field of health. MIPI, which is a French infrastructure provider for public hospitals, and Hippocrates, a Geo Group company that develops smart health applications, a lot of e-learning approaches. And then we have two large networks, of course, the Digital SME Alliance and the organization of patients with chronic diseases based in Romania. The Shift Hub model draws inspiration from the JRC Digital Innovation Hub methodology, and basically we are trying to become a one-stop shop for smart health applications, develop a network, a community, an ecosystem, and then provide all the typical services. First of all, access to knowledge, research infrastructures, technical infrastructures, and then all the business support services from matchmaking with peers to basically access to public and private financing. Our own approach would consist basically in creating a complete end-to-end value chain in the field of smart digital health applications. So basically connecting all stakeholders in the ecosystem, from researchers to tech, software and hardware developers, to the practitioners and the patients that they represent, and ultimately to the citizens. The Shift Hub has basically several layers. The first and most important is the Health Data Hub that will be developed by Clarop and MIPI, and that will make available a pool of synthetic, open, and real-world data that will serve the purposes of, let's say, helping the development of 100 apps selected and included in a repository and marketplace. On top of that, basically, we will try to increase the awareness of all the ecosystem stakeholders, and then help them collaborate by leveraging the living lab approach. So allowing interactions between the app developers and practitioners and patients to allow improving those applications, raising awareness and fostering their adoption. I will go, since we are, let's say, behind the schedule, I will go quickly through these 2 slides on our objective and services. We are covering the, let's say, the European innovation ecosystem through all its dimensions, represented by the so-called quadruple helix from public and private stakeholders, with the idea to have a complete coverage of the smart digital health value chain. And then the services we are offering go from the matchmaking and introduction to business and research partners in the so-called open innovation methodology, which is also at the center of the presentation today. We are organizing next week an event, the first open innovation workshop, that I will present a little bit later, and then helping these community stakeholders through our showcase, the demo days, basically the living lab days, to get to know each other, test the applications, promote what they're doing, and together access public and private funding. What we are trying to accomplish during the next event, the first Open Innovation Workshop, is that we are targeting 2 future Horizon Europe calls. One focused on holistic support to children and adolescents in the increasing digital society, and the second focused on personalized prevention of non-communicable diseases based on multiple data sources, which is at the core of today's event. So we are encouraging all interested stakeholders to join us, register for the event. The idea being to allow you to promote your organizations, the positioning in the value chain, the expertise that you can offer, and then meet potential partners, technology developers, business partners, research and development organizations, experimentation partners, and with the support of the Shift Hub consortium to establish partnerships, create consortia, develop your own concepts, and address the challenges of these two calls for applications in the scope of the Horizon Europe call. That would be it. In case you want to reach us, so you have the contacts of our project coordinator from Steinbeis and my own. Gabriele will share with you the link to register to our next event. So if you have any questions, very happy to answer it.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's indeed very good and very detailed presentation. I'm very happy to see that there are more and more opportunities for SMEs from different communities and from Shift Hub as well. I encourage participants, if there are any questions, please write in the chat, and definitely Paul's monitoring the chat as well, and if needed, he will revert back to you. Thank you so much, Paul.
Thank you, Justina.
And with this, I give the floor back to my colleague Antonio to perhaps conclude from everything what we have seen today.
Yes, thank you very much, Justina. Thanks to all the exceptional speakers that we had today. It was a very useful discussion to understand what is actually digitalization of the healthcare sector about. We understood from the Commission that it is about enhancing the availability of patient data and unfolding the opportunities that can come from a growing telemedicine market, a growing availability of data useful for research purposes. This data can trigger innovation coming from small and medium innovators. We heard from very practical examples, such as the one Mario illustrated about the use of AI to predict heart failure, the importance of matchmaking that Bert mentioned in order to enhance the match between digital solutions and healthcare needs and enhance knowledge sharing. And we heard from Paula about the role of Digital Innovation Hub to bring together beneficiaries and the providers of solutions. We heard as well from Tilda about big data and the potential to predict the peak of influenza and other diseases. And we heard as well from Fleming about the importance of solutions in digital, in the digital, and in particular in the health sector. From Paul, we heard a summary of the potential that we can bring together from all these several stakeholders, because with the Shift Hub community, we are building a living lab approach that brings together stakeholders, that unites them in an interaction for building a community of open innovation. So within the Shift Hub partnership, also Digital SME is contributing to building this community. We have a community page available on our website for those of you who are interested to join this community to take a look. And within this context, Digital SME is also happy to announce, as we mentioned in the beginning, that coming from the conclusion of this event, we want to build a subgroup of this community that is going to be the point where the users, the digital SMEs, the public authorities, and the healthcare providers can meet, can come together in order to link the demand for healthcare needs, the need to meet the public health objectives, with the opportunity of having a supply of digital solutions that can help meet these objectives and can foster the eHealth solutions in Europe. Why we need small-sized innovators for this? It is because, in particular, it is fundamental to have a digital sovereign continent into the healthcare sector, because of the criticality of the security and interoperability of health systems in our continent. So we are gonna build a focus group on healthcare, and we are working on this in order to be able, after the summer break, to come back to all of you with the launch of this focus group, to be the place where we can have a deep dive on technologies, on funding opportunities, on interactions between innovators, and to increase visibility on digital health solutions that can benefit patients and policymakers. We are going to come back to you well in advance before the official launch of the focus group, and we will encourage you to subscribe to our community. To conclude, I would like again to thank you, all the speakers, for their excellent contribution, and all of you for participating to this event today. Have a great weekend, and looking forward to stay in touch with all of you.
Thank you, and you will receive follow-up and recording. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Yes, and enjoy the weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.